Okay, it should be live now.
All right.
Fantastic.
Somebody should wave to us if we're online. Let's see the. Do you see the chat?
Yeah, I see the chat. Hello,
Okay.
everyone.
Hey, guys.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We have a few people starting.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, wonderful. It's working.
Yeah, so we have our first waves.
All right. Good to hear. Good to hear. Thanks, everyone, for coming today. Across the globe, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're gonna keep it another 5-10 minutes just for everybody to join.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
All right. Should we do a quick fire round of random questions?
Why not?
Yeah.
What do you guys have? Or we can take questions from the audience.
Let's see if they're active. So does anybody want to ask anything from us?
Not something too deep and ethereal, but quick and punchy questions.
So what's your vision of life, Yi-Wei? So where do you go?
Thinking of yourself as a product. That's how you go.
I'm curious to see how many, like, like the audience there. You guys are from which countries? So me and Yi-Wei, we are based in Dubai. Stefan is based in
Romania.
Romania. And how about the rest of the people? Let's see how far did the message reach?
Yeah, where's everyone tuning in from?
I see Liviu. He's from Romania. Hey, Liviu. ProductTank Romania. He's a co-organizer.
You got David tuning in from Dubai. Very good. Very good.
Okay, Kiran is from UAE. I know him. Dubai, India, Romania. Lots of familiar faces, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very good.
All right.
I think it takes a while for some of these comments to show up here. So,
yeah,
cool. Oh, there we go.
Oh yeah. So it updates every once in a while. It took me by surprise. I just got like 50 messages.
Oh, wonderful. I guess it pulls every minute or something like that.
Yeah. And I was just sitting there waiting.
Wonderful, right. Man. I think I'm super excited about this event. We've done, obviously, myself, I've attended ProductTank in Singapore, then ProductTank in Dubai, but it's quite rare to see product people sort of come together across borders, right? Like, usually there's maybe one or two minded product conferences a year, but it's really cool to be able to see this.
Are there any like differences between these chapters that you visited? Like anything remarkable?
I think the gist of it is quite similar. I think the one common ground with ProductTank is, I feel like the spirit of sharing product practices with people with the genuine interest of, it's not very showy. I think it's very collaborative. I think that is quite consistent across the board. Mm-hmm. And I think it speaks to the fact that, product as a practice is still relatively young and new, and everyone's just trying to figure it out as we go, right? Like, the practices are constantly changing, and I think it's very nice to see. And I think, when I joined ProductTank in Singapore, it was just when it first started as well, right? So very, very early days in product in Asia, and then our product in the Middle East is also still very early days and growing. So it's good to see.
Have you seen it growing? Sorry, Mihai, go ahead.
I just want to say that I envy the people from. I have a friend who's was participating at ProductTank London, and he says that they always have 200 plus attendees, and things are a bit more active there. So I always wanted to get into this kind of network. But the Dubai chapter is growing slowly, so hopefully we'll reach there.
Yeah, and now we have across all the different chapters, at least a couple hundred people coming together. So very good to see.
Yeah.
Let me check. Okay, so we have 62 people watching us right now. Guys, for everybody who's joined already, we're gonna spend another probably 5, maximum 10 minutes just to coagulate the audience. And then we're gonna start with Yi-Wei and his presentation, which is going to last for about 20 minutes plus minus, and then we're gonna have some questions at the end, and then a little bit of networking. So if you have anything specific in this 5-10 minutes in which you are doing the intros, feel free to go ahead and place a question on YouTube, and we'll see it on our stream software, and then we'll probably get back to you. 20 minutes plus minus.
Okay, so I'll take into my so I'll take care of the chat on YouTube and ask you guys if anybody asks a question in there. So feel free to ask any questions on the YouTube chat. I'll be watching that. So Yi-Wei, you said earlier that product is sort of starting to take off in both Middle East and Asia. How were the early days? Do you see any difference? What do you mean by taking off? What do you mean by starting to get recognition?
Yeah, I think I'll speak to it a little bit about the history of products in my point of view, at least in a couple of slides. But I think if you look at product and how in the different pockets of the world where I've seen the conversation shift. When I first moved to Singapore in 2014, 2015, the startup and tech scene was just growing, and the conversation was quite young, at the time, right? We were talking about product in almost the same language as talking about project management. Right? I remember my first couple of talks that I was doing in Singapore was just trying to demystify the concept of what a product manager even is, right? And so that's really bare bone basics, right? And I think as product has evolved in different parts of the world, where it is product has become this almost servant leader, if you want to call it, where if you look at all the different parts of any business, product can play a role in it, right? Whether it's marketing, whether it's sales efficiency, whether it's logistics in the case of a food delivery company, and product is starting to become that hub that sort of connects the business together. And as product becomes sort of the key business driver, that's the topic for today. I think that's what's very exciting. That's the biggest evolution of product that I see over the last little
while. I see a question from Naija Bashir. Yeah, Stefan, you want to pick it up?
Yeah, sure. So Naija is asking, any specific certifications, courses that would help make us a better PM, a better product manager?
Yeah,
that you recommend?
Hey, I mean, I have a couple things to say, and it may be unpopular. I think that there are some very common courses that are recommended, whether it's that are maybe a bit more focused on the process side, whether it's Scrum courses or CSPO courses. Not to say that they're bad, but I think that it undersells the role of product management. I think that it's important to get your process work done. I think it's important to really upskill on that. But I actually think that these days, more than ever, I think that product people should actually be much more well-versed with the business. Right. So personally, I think not to say everyone go and do your MBA, but if I look and think about the books that have really impacted my product thinking over the last little while, it's actually less of product books and more of business books. Like reading Good to Great again, for like the third or fourth time, actually sparks more thinking as I think about product than the next product book that I'm reading. So that's my take. I personally find that there are a couple online courses, for example, whether it's product school. I used to teach at General Assembly, which are in different parts of the world as well. They do a product management course that's quite good. So some of those are recommendations. But I think that product is such a broad-based skill That I think wherever you start, I think it's just a starting point. It's very hard to teach product without doing product. It's my personal point of view.
Which is the book that you've mentioned earlier, reading 2 or 3 times?
Good to Great. Yeah, Good to Great. It's a very, very classic business book that, reminds you that, for the difference between a good company and a great company is a level of focusing on people, being really clear about what is the one thing you can do better than everyone else. It's very basic business strategy, but sometimes as product people, you're so focused on just executing, you don't take a step back and think about the business as a whole.
Okay, I found the link on. I found the link on Google, obviously, and I'll share it on the group with everybody.
Awesome.
Great.
All right, so we're 10 minutes in right now. We could probably start, but let's just ask. So Shreya is asking, which product business book would you recommend? So let's just recommend one quick book, and then I think we can start. What do you say, Mihai?
If I could have one that I recommend everyone in my product team, or anyone who interviews with me, or anyone who is exploring product, is always Marty Kagan's material. It's always fantastic. Inspired How to Create Tech Products Customers Love. Hope I didn't butcher the title. Man, it's just such a fantastic 101 that I think everyone should read it and reread it every year, just because you forget and you need to be reminded of the core principles of product.
Yeah, that's a classic, huh?
Yeah, absolute classic.
Awesome. Okay, we'll put that on the group too. And I think we can start. What do you say, Mihai?
Yeah, let's go ahead. So
fantastic.
I'll do a quick introduction. I hope everybody should have joined by now. Guys, myself, my name is Mihai. I'm part of ProductTank Dubai. Then we have Stefan, who is part of ProductTank Bucharest, and we are organizing this regional ProductTank meetup, one of the first of its kind in this region. Where together with other 5 chapters, we are creating an event, and then we are sharing with the rest of you guys and with whoever is interested into product. Either it's if you're at the beginning of your journey of your process of joining the product management team, or you're a little bit later in the stage. I think it's going to be a healthy conversation for everyone. And now a few words about our speaker. So Yi-Wei, he's right now part of the Talabat. We had a talk with him back in 2019, and back then it was an offline event, and it was one of the most pleasant experience we've had it with ProductTank in Dubai. So then we've decided to award him the opportunity to kick off this regional event. So yeah, I'm gonna remove myself and Stefan from the equation for the next 20 minutes or for the duration of the talk. But you guys keep an eye on YouTube, and at the end, feel free to add your questions in the YouTube comments, and we're gonna re-comment the screen, and then we'll read your questions and try to answer. Good luck, good way, and Yi-Wei, and then we'll see you at the end. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. All right, so today's topic is building PM teams for business impact. And the reason why I've been thinking about this topic for the last little while was at ProductTank in Dubai in 2019, someone asked me the question about how I see the product practice evolving. And what is the one thing that I think, at the time, I don't think my product organization was doing nearly enough of. And at that point, what I said was, as product evolved, and as product evolves and matures as an organization, as a practice, the one thing that product managers need to take into consideration more is the fact that as leaders and as product leaders building for the business, we need to really think about driving the business. We're not just people to deliver software, not just people to deliver technology. We're not just people who makes a team a little bit more efficient, getting things out the door. But no, I think that product people as a whole need to really think about how we can gear towards making sure that everything that we do actually drives the business forward. And I think while it sounds very simple in theory, I think that is the one thing that really determines what a great PM is, and just a good enough PM, right? And it's just really that obsession about making sure that whatever works for the customer, whatever tech solution that we have, really moves the business forward. So a little bit of a background about myself, if it's helpful. I am currently the Chief Product Officer at Talabat, headquartered here in Dubai. We are the largest food delivery player in the MENA region, headquartered in Dubai. We also have offices in a bunch of different countries, but our tech hubs are in Egypt and in Dubai right now. Prior to that, I used to be the VP of Product at Property Finder, one of the leading real estate portals in the Middle East. And prior to that, I was actually in Singapore working at a company called TradeGecko, which has recently been acquired by Intuit as head product. I was the lead instructor for product at General Assembly, so I've been doing a little bit of product coaching over the last little while. And prior to that, I was actually in Seattle working as a PM for Microsoft's developer division. And my first ever job in the foray of product was a UX researcher. So I transitioned from being a UX researcher very early on in my career at IBM, working on the enterprise software, to product, and moving around sort of in different parts of the world and seeing how tech and product has evolved. And I'm currently living in Dubai and have been here for the last 2 years, building the product culture here in Dubai, and also building the product team here at Talabat. So a little bit more about Talabat. We are currently about 250 people working in product and tech. In that, obviously, we have a product management practice, our data practice, our design practice, our engineering practice, and we're a fast-growing company here in the Middle East as we think about all the different growth avenues when it comes to delivery, right? Whether it's food delivery or groceries delivery. And I can tell you, over the last 6 or 7 months, there hasn't been a dull moment, as everyone can imagine. This is a very interesting time to be in food delivery for sure. So, been around a couple different cities, and very early on in this conversation today, we were just discussing sort of how the in different stages of maturity in tech in different parts of the world, how that's been, and I'm very happy to be in Dubai right now, seeing sort of the growth curve in tech companies, and what's really fascinating is just seeing how product as a practice has really evolved in the region, and how people in the Dubai tech scene and the MENA tech scene are becoming more and more sort of central to the tech story. It's been really great to see. So a quick history lesson. And this is coming a little bit from my personal experience so far. I remember in the early 2000s, or maybe even the early 2010s, we really focused very hard on one thing, which is, we were going from these big topics of, annual planning cycles to the topic of agile, right? The page on the right there is actually still today up and running, the Agile Manifesto, which is a big movement towards how can we as tech people move towards delivering quicker value, responding to change, working with our customers, being a bit more obsessed about that, and discussing how we can sort of take this monolithic waterfall planning cycle into smaller chunks. So very early on, the role of product was planning and helping facilitate this shift towards agile. I remember very early on in my career, my job as a PM was to make sure that the Scrum team was operating correctly, that we introduced the concept of what it is to do a good daily stand-up. We introduced the concepts of what it is to do a good planning meeting and a good retrospective. And I think that was really important, right? Because it really shifted the conversation towards just output to really focusing on how do we deliver chunks of value, really focusing on user and developing that. And then I would say that in the 2010s, as we went into the mid 2010s, especially, we really started focusing a lot more on being customer obsessed, right? I think that a lot of the design principles started seeping in. As a former UX researcher, it's really great to see a lot more of the customer discovery techniques, a lot more of the customer development techniques come in, and we really started to put more and more focus into making sure that customers are at the heart of what we do, which I think has really led us to some really fantastic products that have come out the other end, right? Now, I think the third shift that we're seeing is that PMs are not just responsible for building products that people love. I think that it's very important for PMs to start driving the business, right? I think one of the bigger shifts is that product is no longer just about developing software and shipping software. I think product is now becoming more and more essential part of every part of the organization. To give you an example from my point of view, we're in a food delivery company. There isn't a part of the organization that isn't touched by product in some way, right? Logistics and optimizing the logistics fleet is very much a product problem. Um, how marketing delivers efficiency in the marketing campaigns is very much a marketing and product problem. Looking at how we can automate our sales processes is very much a product problem as well. So I think that as the product discipline grows and as product becomes a more crucial element of all the different parts of an organization, I think it's very important for us to really think about how we as product managers and how we as we build product organizations built for optimizing business outcomes as opposed to just what customers love. So my one quote here is, it's no longer good enough for PMs to just build products that customers love. Not to say that it's not important, it's just not good enough. You need to do a little bit more than that, right? And as over the last 2 years, I'm sure everyone's sort of seen the news of WeWork and a couple of different companies come in and out. And one big conversation around it is, look, there was a time where it was sort of growth at all costs, right? We see companies like Uber, we see companies like Grab in Singapore who really focus on growth, at least historically. Now I think the conversation shifted a little bit. Now, even in the startup world, we're not just focusing on growth, we're very much focused on sustainable growth. We're very much focused on, what it means to actually be able to make a profit, perhaps, to be able to actually return shareholder value. And I think that that's a very healthy conversation to have, because product managers don't just think about how to increase potentially some more fictitious metrics. I think product managers need to be a lot more holistic in the way that they think about the business, the health of the business, right, at any given time. And one example that I like to share in my classes is always like the example of Segway, right? I don't know how many of you guys were around when Segway, the talk of Segway was around. You have people like John Doerr who at that point believed that it will become, it will be the product that gets to 1 billion in sales faster than any other company in the internet. We were talking about how we can reshape cities so that these Segway devices can be the new form of commuting, and a lot of hype behind it. But push comes to shove, people actually thought that it was a really cool product, and then researchers were actually quite kind of interesting. But what really crippled it was everything around it, right? It was the fact that safety regulation concerns was always there, that they never really figured out a pricing strategy that allowed for mass adoption, that the ecosystem and infrastructure for charging and for roads to be paid for Segway never really got there. And all of these are things that, as you're developing product, if you were just developing to just to just optimize for the user in its current in their current context, to just what delights them, I think it undersells the important. It only gets us halfway there, right? For a product to truly be successful in the market, I think we need to take that above and beyond, right? So what does that mean for product managers? So Marty Kagan, in his book Inspired, outlines 4 risks, and I think it's probably the most succinct way of describing the 4 key aspects of things that PMs need to think about as they develop products, right? One is value. Do people find this product valuable? Would they actually use it? Second is technical risk, right? Have we evaluated how complex it is for us to build something? Usability risk. Would they know how to use it, right? Do we actually have prototypes to test to make sure that they actually use it? But there's a 4th one called business risk. And I feel like as a product management function, we perhaps don't spend nearly enough time on. And I took a quote actually from SVPG, Marty Kagan's blog, that I think if you read it through and highlight all the different areas, they actually are pretty massive, right? Business viability risk includes whether the product fits with a go-to-market or sales channel, right? AKA how does product get to a customer's hands? Whether the product would work within the constraints of contracts with partners and or legal compliance, whether we can afford to cost effectively acquire these customers, whether the product is consistent with a brand promise, as just a few examples. If you take this one sentence in itself and double click into each of these topics, they're massive, right? Just the topic of whether it's cost effective to acquire customers and whether or not you can grow sustainably is a massive topic in itself. Whether it's consistent with the brand promise, working closely with the marketing, big topic in itself, right? So I think this is the one area that as a product organization, as a product function, I think we need to dive a little bit deeper into. Think about value risk, right? Most PMs, if you're already practicing dual track agile and some of the discovery techniques, you'll do that quite naturally. Technical feasibility, as long as you've built that strong bond between your engineering counterpart and yourself, and you're discovering things together, I think that would be covered as well. The fact that design oftentimes now in a squad model is very close to the product manager means that usability is taken care of. But what about the business? Who takes care of that? Who in the organization works closely with the PM to ensure that the business risks are actually taken care of? And that's what I want to focus today's conversation about. But why, as we think about product development, that we really need to overemphasize the importance of the business risk. So some of you may be familiar with this. This is the handy dandy, beautiful lean canvas board, right? It's a lean canvas board. It's a fantastic way to sort of outline the problem that you're solving, the solution that you're putting into play, what's the UVP of the solution, who you're solving the problem for, what the unfair advantage is, what metrics you use to measure it. But there are 4 areas. I've done this personally as a PM. A lot of times, I just ignore some parts of this box. What do I usually ignore? Cost structure, revenue streams, channels, customer segments to some degree. You sort of just leave it till the end. You're like, okay, I'll figure out the cost structure at the end. I'll figure out how this actually makes money at the end. And my assertion here is, if you get everything else right, you get the problem right, the solution right, the metrics right, the UVP right, but you don't consider the business. I believe that in this day and age, that's not a sustainable way to build product. That's not built for success, right? And my assertion is, I really do believe that as product evolves as a function, that we need to start bringing and filling these boxes. Whether you do it or whether you bring someone who is really a specialist in this to build it is up for debate. But really, I think that if product managers don't really bring everyone to the table to answer some of these key questions, I think there's a massive risk for us that we're not factoring into the product development process. So what does that mean? I think great PMs are their own chief revenue officers. You're not just thinking about the product to be built. You're thinking about how do I acquire customers? How do I activate them? How do I make sure that they stay? How do I make money from it? How do I make sure that as a customer is very successful, they refer other people in? So they call it the pirate metrics of the R funnel, right? They think about that entire funnel from when people find the product for the first time or hear about the product for the first time, all the way through to when they actually will pay for the product, right? Great PMs are also enablers for other teams to do their best work, right? They measure the team on impact on the bottom line, not just whether code is out the door and the product is shipped. And they really focus on outcomes over outputs, which is a bit of a no-brainer, but really emphasizing the fact that outcomes is not just the product outcome. The product outcome is actually the business outcome, really pushing it all the way to what matters for the business. So what does that mean as a PM? So a couple of, as you guys are here in the conversation, a couple of food for thought, right? How do you think about selling your product? Who sells your product? How do people hear about your product? What are the distribution channels? Do people hear your product through your content? Do they see it through paid ads? Do they hear about it because you have a very strong brand? How do people even discover your product for the first time? Who uses your product? If you're a B2B product, how your product gets sold and how your product gets adopted may be 2 very different people. So you may have a sales team that's actively selling to the decision maker, but people who use it may not be the people that you're selling the product to. And how does that differ? And how do you have to think about the 2, right? If you work in a marketplace, perhaps you need to think about what kind of supply and demand needs to be in place for you to have the right first experience, right? How do you price? How do you know if you're priced correctly? All of these are really big questions, and this list can probably go down to a list of 50, right? And I don't think that it's easy to answer, and I don't think that's an exhaustive list. But the point is, there are all of these questions that come up as you start digging a little bit deeper into the business and the commercial side of your product. And I'm urging all of you PMs to really start thinking a little bit more about the business viability of the products that you're building, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to help move the business forward. So my assertion may have been disconnected there, so I'll say it again. So just as you iterate your product strategy, we believe that the answers to your commercial questions should also come iteratively.
I think we've lost you for a minute, Yi-Wei. Are you there?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear
I just
you.
want to check. Yeah, otherwise I'll jump off and come back in. I don't know where you guys lost me. So
after the quote that you've mentioned before the implication.
Fantastic. So maybe tying back to the implications, right? So if all of this is true, what does that mean for us building product, right? I think that there are a couple implications I want to talk about. Number one, evolving the squad model. So for those of you who've been in product for the last little while, you know that product management, engineering, and design have been coming closer and closer together, right? And what I'm asserting is that there should be a fourth component to the squad, right? Not just product management, not just engineering, not just design, but also a commercial counterpart, right? Bring the business close to your development cycle. So what that means is that that three-legged stool that Airbnb popularized in their Medium article about how we need to grow engineering, product, and design equally should also have a fourth component, which is our commercial counterparts, right? And we believe that you shouldn't just be throwing work over to the commercial counterpart. And you see that a lot, right? Where once you're done with the product, you say, hey, sales team, hey, marketing team, this is your problem now. Can you please take it and take it to market? You know, we really believe that the future of how we see the squad model is evolving to where the commercial counterpart really has a seat on the table. I'm going to take a pause here again, just because I think my connection is a bit weak. Mihai, are you there?
Yeah. You wanna refresh your connection?
Yeah, let me do that.
Okay. So, Guy, give it half a second or 20 seconds, and Yi-Wei should be back with us. I have seen that you've started adding questions, which is quite nice. I have some few questions on my own, so looking forward to the Q&A. Yeah.
Does this work? Yeah?
Yeah. Can you...
And maybe should I start with the implications again? I don't know if you guys heard that part.
Yeah, okay. It might be better to start from the...
Okay. All right, so implication number one, just to recap a little bit, is look, the Airbnb model talked a little bit about the product engineering design, sort of counterparts coming together. And I really believe that there should be a fourth component, which is the commercial component, right? So I believe the three-legged stool, as they call it, will become a four-legged chair. And my encouragement to you as PMs is to not treat your sales team or your go-to-market team or your product marketing managers as sort of the afterthought. To say, hey, my product is done. Now, can you please go and sell it? Can you please get that over the door? Instead, we really believe that because commercial risks are so open-ended, because, as I mentioned before, there's so many questions that need to be answered on the commercial side, they really need to be there in day one. As you validate your value assumptions, your engineering assumptions, your usability assumptions, you should be also validating some of those key business assumptions from day one. And number two, I think that product people need to be part and be part of that conversation and be at the table, right? If you're a B2B SaaS product, if you're a PM for that, how are you spending time speaking with your buyers? Are you spending time speaking to your partners? Perhaps your go-to-market channels are, consulting companies that take your product and sells it to small, medium-sized businesses. Are you speaking to your suppliers to really understand, what comes into your pipeline? You need to work with sales, go on the ground, perhaps even as you have new ideas and new things that you want to validate, sell, do pre-sales, do whatever it takes to make sure that, you get a deeper understanding of some of these business assumptions, right? And be there for partnership conversations. More than ever before, especially if you're a consumer product, there's some great partnership conversations that oftentimes happens sort of independently of product. And I really do believe that's a great opportunity for product people to have a seat on the table to test those commercial assumptions in parallel to testing those product assumptions. And it's a partnership, yeah, at the end of the day. So implication number 3, and I think this is one where I think PMs as a whole are a little bit weaker at. I do believe that historically PMs have been more tech savvy and design savvy, but perhaps a little bit less on the business side, or perhaps even on the finance side. And one skill I often say that PMs need to continue growing in is the ability to create what I call mini models. So these are not massive business models that you need to have 50 lines to validate whether something works or not, but some high level assumptions of your revenue streams, of your costs, of adoption rates, of people's what percentage of your audience will convert from a trial to a paid customer, from a paid customer to and how long they stay for, what your churn rates are. I believe that as PMs, we need to be a lot more savvy in thinking through some of these key assumptions and being able to model it out. And the key reason why you want to do that is because you want to know whether or not what the most optimistic case is, in your business model. What's a more conservative case? And the goal, as you validate, as you go out there and speak with customers, as you bring your sales team a little bit closer to your squad, is to fill in those assumption yellow boxes with real numbers. Real numbers because you've run a trial. Real numbers because you've done a Wizard of Oz test. Real numbers because you've done a landing page experiment and see what the conversion rate is. Real numbers because you maybe had a push notification on your app to test a new concept and see what feedback people have given you. So I think that's really powerful, right? To give you just a fictitious example, if, for example, a food delivery platform wanted to work on a lunch subscription, right? They would think about, okay, of all the people who use my delivery platform, what percentage of those people would subscribe into a lunch subscription? How many times would they order a week? What percentage of them would go back to the office today, due to COVID times, right? How much do we make per order? How much does it cost to deliver an order? What is our break-even point? Modeling all of this out will help you at a very high level understand whether your business model works or not. So before you jump into a product idea to be built, I think it's really important in parallel to also build sort of that business case to help you validate whether this idea, even if consumers absolutely love it, is even sort of long-term viable from a business perspective. The fourth implication is storytelling. So making an assumption that you've brought your sales team in, making an assumption that you've been speaking with customers, making an assumption that you've sort of built this model. I actually think that what I love using the Lean Canvas board for is that it sort of tells the story of a whole business in one screen, right? You talk about the problem that a user has, the solution that you have in mind, the UVP, what is the unique value proposition that you can offer that no one else can? How much does this cost? What are the revenue streams? Why is it profitable for the business, right? What channels and how do people discover us, and what segments are we targeting? As you fill this out, this is a fantastic skeleton for you to bring and shop around in different parts of your organization. Take this and bring it to your marketing team and help them understand the problem that you're trying to solve and bring them along in your journey. This is what you use to enable your sales team so that as you speak to the next 5, 10, 15, 20 customers, there's something to base off of, right? They're not just selling a product, they're selling a story at the end. And I think as PMs, as the complexities around building product becomes more, right? Not just building product, but okay, also thinking about all of this holistically, we need to be getting better and better at making things simple, because it's so easy to go, okay, as product, this chunk of things that we're looking at is growing and growing and growing and growing. So being able to simplify it in very, very readable terms and very understandable terms, rallying the business behind us so that we can go to market, successfully, I think it's super important. And so, I think that if there's one skill that I would encourage all PMs to continue honing in on, is be a great storyteller to people internal and external to your organization. And lastly is a big one. I think everything I've said can be good and true, but all fails if there's a mismatch of alignment of goals between different parts of the organization. And this is
We've lost you again, Yi-Wei. Yi-Wei, are you there? Guys, give us a couple of minutes. I guess Yi-Wei is going to rejoin soon. This is the standard 2020. Salim was mentioning on the chat. I think we're all used to calls being dropped. Hello, Yi-Wei. We still we can't hear you. We can't even see you. Huh? Okay, give us a few more minutes. I really hope that Yi-Wei is going to get back on track. I'm going to share Stefan as well so we can entertain you guys. We've seen some very good questions in the meantime. Yeah, Stefan.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, Yi-Wei is back. 1 second.
Hey,
hello?
guys, hear me?
Anyway.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. Now.
Okay, good. Okay.
You should call your internet provider and have a rant.
Get my money back.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Look, last slide, and I think this one is an important one. The last slide here talks about I think all said and done, the biggest gap that I see in the product success these days is when parts of the organizations don't align with each other. This is a great slide that I've taken from HubSpot's blog years ago now, and it's very, I think tells a good story about an organization that has two people rowing one way, two people rowing another way. And for those who've done physics at some point in their life knows that the vectors, the sum of the vectors right now adds up to 0, right? And I think that, more than ever before, whatever tool you use, OKRs is the most popular one right now, fine. Whatever it is, it's very important for the product organization to be very deeply coupled with the business. And whether it's in the form of OKRs, whether it's in the form of whatever target setting tool that you use, it's very important to, at the get-go, make sure that there's that's a full alignment on the North Star of what you guys want to achieve, right? The problems that you're solving, the objectives that you have for a quarter, the objectives you have for the year needs to be done and really align at the hip, because otherwise, at the end of it, you will not be able to maximize the output from each of you. Ideally, all parts of the equation should add up together where everyone rows in the same direction and really multiplies each other's efforts. And as a PM, my encouragement for everyone is take a step back and spot those inefficiencies, to spot those conflicts early so that we can bring it all together. So before you write a single line of code, not only are your external risks and dependencies sorted, but your internal risks and dependencies also sort of ironed out. So hopefully that was useful. Thank you everyone for being here today. I know obviously with a lot of these conversations, the questions and answers are probably also equally valuable. So that's just my perspective that I've been thinking about over the last year about bringing the business and product a bit closer together. And one last thought, one thing that we've done very practically at Talabat is actually assign what we call a business partner to every single squad area. So you can imagine, the person running our sales team is very tightly coupled with the people building products for our restaurants, or the people who are working on our logistics are very, very actively working on, who are very tightly coupled with the product team working on logistics. It's very important for the business and operation side of the business to almost be, it's a partnership with the product organization. We've actually made some structural changes so that, for example, both sides, the business and the product counterparts, present to the CEO every month on the progress of the product and how it's progressing. And so we're excited to see how this evolves. Obviously, as we experiment and learn, I'm sure we'll learn a couple of different things over the next little while about how we can improve this. But so far, it's been a very healthy conversation between the business and the product, and product is more plugged into the business than ever before, and we're very happy with the progress that we've made. All right, so a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How about you guys? How about you guys pick the questions and
Yeah,
I know. Go ahead.
I think we can help you out on that. Right. So, okay, let's see. So this is
Before you until
yeah.
you
Go
choose
ahead.
one, can I close with one question?
Sure.
Having in mind what Yi-Wei said, so
Mhm.
I'm very I resonate a lot with what you said about a product being involved more into business and into the outcome. But how do you define business? And I think you've closed with this one. But
Yes.
how do you like, who's the business? Is the CFO, or like who would have this
Yeah.
business role? Because business for me sounds a
Yeah.
bit generic. So
It's a bit ethereal, right? Look, I'm going to use Talabat as an example because I think we're a very complex business, and I think it shows how complex this is, because I don't think it's just financial. I don't think it's just sales. I think it's a lot more than that, right? So to give you an example, we are a multi-sided marketplace, right? We've got consumers, we've got riders, we've got restaurants, and it's a very complex system. And every part of this is very nuanced, right? So, the logistics team has a team on the ground, and they are one part of our business, right? Our sales team, onboarding a bunch of restaurants, that's one part of the business, right? We have, our marketing team, which is responsible for acquiring users and retaining users. That's a part of the business. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is the business is sort of as you look at a business's P&L, I guess all the different assumptions that go into the operating of a business, every single part of that can be dissected and be partnered up with products. So I don't think that it's purely financial. I think that it's a lot more nuanced than that. And I think that any operational problem that you have can arguably be classed as a part of the business that the product helps solve. Does that answer your question, Mihai?
yeah, I understand the structure that you're trying to share, and I also understand that probably there is no like a very direct answer, like this person or the other person. But yeah, it helped clarify a bit the whole message.
Good. Okay, so let's take some questions.
All right.
Yeah.
So I have one that I liked, and I think lots of people usually ask this question. So it's is there a difference between product management within a digital company and a more traditional one like banking and I don't know, let's say an auto shop, right? Or a little shop.
I think it's hugely different, right? I think that every business is nuanced, and the funny thing is, like, I would classify food delivery actually as a very traditional is the wrong word, but it's Pizza Hut's been doing delivery for I don't know how many years, right? Like this is not a new problem to be solved per se. The aggregated marketplace model is potentially, right, but I think that every business is very nuanced. It really depends on are you an online to offline business? Are you a purely online business? Are you a SaaS business? And I think that product roles do change a lot depending on the problem that you're solving and who you're solving for and how it's structured. And as a result, the way that you interact with the business, the way you engage with the business needs to change as a result of that. I think in some cases a lot simpler than others. To give you an example, when I was in a B2B SaaS company and I knew that 100% of my customers were pretty much SMEs who are doing e-commerce, man, like to be able to just speak to them very directly, solving that one problem and working with one sales team to solve that one problem was very clear and crisp, right? In a multi-sided marketplace, it's a lot more complex. Anyway, that's my take on it. Did I answer it, or was there maybe is there something else that I need to deep dive into in that question?
I think you answered it.
Okay,
I'd
good.
say so. All right. Let's see. Sorry. We have another one from. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your names. It's Najia, I hope. So, the question is, should I try to drive the business or implement features that customer stakeholders ask for? This is like a common question that we get, right? So what should I be focusing on? My own vision, my own strategy, pushing my vision, or should I be going for what our customers and clients ask for? How do we balance this, actually? I think this is a big question. Because you cannot ignore one another, right? Or you should be doing both.
Yeah, I think as always, I encourage every PM that your job is the challenge. Your job is to challenge every assumption. And I think this can often be misconstrued as being, perhaps, difficult. I've been, I've had my fair share of conversations where people are like, why are you giving me such a hard time? But I think that it's very important to build a culture where, as a PM, you're really trying to share with your stakeholders that I'm not asking questions and challenging to be difficult, but I'm challenging it so that I can make sure that whatever solution that comes out the door is best for our customers and best for our business. And I think it's very important to not just blindly implement feature after feature after feature, because if you do that, we'll end up being a bit of a feature factory with no real alignment and building towards something much longer term. So I would say, I know it's harder, to be clear. I think that good product management is a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work because you have to take things that people assume as that is simple at face value and challenge that and put in a lot of effort to sort of take that conversation one level higher. But I think it's a very important step for PMs to take. And I think that there's another question around how to evolve an organization from sort of being an IT company to just being a product organization. I think that's what it takes. I think it's the conversation that goes beyond just, hey, I'm implementing features, I'm implementing something that the highest paying client has asked for, to saying, hey, I'm developing something that all clients can use, that 80% of our customers can use, that really elevates the conversation. I think that's when you truly, you don't need to be blessed with being now an IT shop to being a product organization. I think it's when the conversations start to evolve and take a different shape, and take a more longer term trajectory that is a bit more customer obsessed, that is a little bit more, not just taking features at face value. I think it's an extremely important transition for organizations to go through.
Got it. And you said that we should be challenging their assumptions. How would you do this? What would you recommend? I mean, it's hard to, right? Just go in and start challenging.
Yep.
I need some tactical approach.
Yeah, I can say
to add what Stefan mentioned. I found myself sometimes in a situation where I looked like I'm against. So I don't want to portray myself of somebody who's just against, but I really want you to make sure that when you're saying that we're gonna have this. This is the, I don't know, number of people who are going to buy from our website. What's the reasoning behind that? But it might look like you're the advocate of the devil.
Yeah, I think it's this is the they say product management is part art and part science. This is 100% the art. This is the part of it that that takes time to develop. And my feedback and encouragement to people is always taking a step back to be helpful, right? If you establish yourself as, I'm not here to make your life more difficult, I just want to make sure that whatever I ship for the business delivers maximum impact. So we're actually on the same team. So help me understand what assumptions we're putting into this problem, and hey, is it possible for me to speak with a couple of customers so that I can understand this problem a little bit deeper, so that as I develop the product that we can be sure that it solves their problem, because I really care that you're successful, Mr. or Miss Salesperson, right? And I think that when you come off first not as the combative product person, but hey, I'm here to give you the best product possible to go to market, I think it changes the conversation and sort of starts the conversation at the right tone.
Right.
I like this. The last question from Andrei Vintila: data-driven versus intuition-driven percentage when it comes to new product areas or uncharted territory. What do you think about intuition and data-driven? Do you sometimes use your intuition?
Of course. I mean, decision making as humans. I mean, we there's a reason why listening to your gut is not like is a thing, right? There's a reason for that, and there's a reason why people who have looked into a problem space over and over and over again have good intuition. And intuition doesn't mean shooting by your hip. I think there's a difference. I think good intuition is when you've looked at a problem space, you've looked at data enough, that you've looked at competitors enough, that you've looked at what other people have done in the market, that you've built a layer of judgment. I think that kind of intuition is great. because I think for the most part, it gets you 50-60% of the way there, right? Very quickly, based on maybe past things that you've seen. Doesn't mean that you just go and say, this is it, let's ship. But I think it gets you to that starting point where you can very quickly understand what are some of the biggest risks and really nail those down, right? So I don't think intuition is bad at all. I think that especially in uncharted territories, you have to take a bit more, there's a bit more guesswork, but it means you just have to, your list of risks is just a little bit longer, and you just have to do a little bit more homework to get the data as quickly as you can. So 100%, I think that I don't think data-driven or intuition-driven are mutually exclusive. I think that you have to be intuition-driven to some degree, but very quickly find the data to back up your riskiest assumptions so that you make the right call moving forward.
Right. Okay. Do you want to ask anything else, Mihai?
Yeah, I saw one question, but maybe let's. You go ahead, and then I'll
I mean, there's one question here about who translates between the product and the business.
That was the one I was going to ask you right now.
I think it's a really good question, because I think it's tempting to introduce a bridge role, and I think it's dangerous. I think that historically, my personal take on it is I don't like solving things with processes alone, because I think in this case, it's about making sure that these two counterparts of product and the business are talking almost on a daily basis, cracking problems on a daily basis, solving and answering the hypotheses on a daily basis. And if that's the case, I don't think a bridge is that, because what a bridge will do is say, hey, business, tell me your requirements and what you need. Product will say, hey, here's what I have to ship. Can I align that to the business? I think there's a lot of underestimated value in bringing people into one room, virtual or otherwise, to crack problems together. And I think that in the spirit of bringing product and business closer together, I actually think it's a lot more of those organic conversations rather than introducing a new role between the product and the business.
So did you ever have the experience of working in such a manner?
Yes, I mean, over the last 10 years in different parts of the, different companies and different products, we went from, for example, annual planning cycles where it's very much about, hey, give me your wish list of all the things you want to implement in a spreadsheet and in priority order in how important this is in sales targets, and then we'll translate that to you in the product, to what I'm really pushing for now, which is, product and the business pretty much sit beside each other and see themselves as integral counterparts to each other.
Right. Okay. Let's see if we have any other questions from the audience that we totally missed.
I see one that I like. Is as a product leader, how can you help your direct reports, junior PMs especially, that come from customer support to learn how to, I'm assuming, build product or build a business? I think
what I take is
that.
Go ahead. Sorry. So that I understand that his question is more like, how do you train them to do this? Like, how do you train a junior PDM coming from customer support to actually start thinking about business and not doing what's easy for him, taking requests from customers or going towards what's his comfort zone is?
Yeah, I think the honest truth is product is getting harder. I think being a product manager is getting harder. And I think to onboard to becoming a PM is harder. And I think the only way to make it less intimidating is two things. One, I believe in a mentorship model. I really do. I believe in, as we go further, I believe the concept of APM programs are more relevant than ever, where you have associate PMs who are really pairing and mirroring more senior PM to think about problems more holistically and spending a bit of time thinking about, usability, spending a little bit of time thinking about data, spending a little bit of time thinking about business. I think that's very valuable. Secondly, I also think that PMs, especially if you're new to it, need to just learn the skills and go deep into one or two things, right? Maybe they spend 3 or 4 months just focusing very hard on understanding how to prototype and user test very, very well. Maybe they spend the next 3 to 4 months after that really thinking about how they can grow on the business side really well. And then eventually they build those skills up. I think it's intimidating. Having spoken to people who are looking to transition to PM, and as I share with them, being a PM means that you get to do this and this and this and this and this. As exciting as it sounds, it's also extremely daunting. And I think that it's very important that as product leaders, as we groom the next generation of PMs, that we make it less intimidating. I think through mentorship, through shadowing, and through helping PMs sort of tackle one pillar of product at a time, it's probably a good way to make sure that PMs sort of come up to speed.
All right. And now that you said that the PM scene is getting more and more complex, and I totally agree with. Another question popped into my mind, and it's something that you discussed in your slides, but I would like to go more in depth. So right now, as you said, a product manager is expected to know a bit of user experience, be able to draw some wireframes. Maybe a bit of UI is good too, not necessarily, being like a master of it, but at least having a keen eye on design and being able to discern what is good from what is wrong and being able to give some feedback is really important. And then maybe some technical knowledge too. How do you tackle this? So let's say you're just beginning, you're into your first 6 months of product management.
Yeah.
How do you suggest, getting over this huge gap of knowledge that you have to cover in order to be able to become performant?
I think this is why I think being the first, if you're jumping into PM and you're the only PM in an organization, like in a startup, I think it's very hard, because you need to surround yourself with really other really good PMs. And I've been really, speaking from experience, I think I've been really fortunate to start my career journey in big tech companies, whether it's IBM or Microsoft, where I could go, okay, I really like how this person dissected that data. I really like the way that this person designed stuff. I really like the way that and this person did A/B testing. And I think that it's through that exposure which helps you discern what's good from bad, because there's it's repetitions. It's like going to the gym. You just have to do it over and over and over again until you get to that level of confidence. And I think that's no way to cheat that system. And I think that if you're a PM looking to break into the first time, try and look for an organization where you can get that kind of mentorship. Right. The first question that I would ask whoever's a hiring manager is help me understand how the team is structured and whether or not I can expand my scope and really learn from the other PMs, because I think that's very important for someone who's breaking in for the first time.
Got it. So basically what you're saying is expose yourself to as much information as possible.
Suck it in. Yeah. Take it all in.
Yeah. Yeah. So maybe you shouldn't wait for the mentor or whatever to teach you, but rather just go and take that information yourself.
Yeah, absolutely as well. Yep, agreed.
Okay, let's see what people asked in here during our chit chat.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we'll take let's take another 2 questions and then then we'll call it a night. Huh?
Okay, sure. Do you want to pick one, Yi-Wei? Is something interesting?
Yeah.
For you? Okay.
I think there's a lot of very interesting ones.
But let's
maybe,
pick 2.
Maybe I'll speak one about, the question around the prioritization technique at Talabat, and maybe I'll somehow jam that together with how we divide our teams. And maybe I'll speak a little bit about, staying focused. How we structure our teams is really by problem areas. Specifically, we're a multi-sided marketplace, so very naturally you split the restaurant-facing side of the business a little bit differently than the consumer-facing side of the business, because they sort of serve sort of different audiences with different sort of metrics that govern it. And as we scale the organization, there's probably opportunities for us to continue subdividing it, right? Into maybe further subsections on our vendor products, maybe specific parts of our vendor products versus logistics, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's very important for us to divide areas that have very clear areas of ownership, that don't have significant dependencies with everyone else, so that they can run as quickly as possible. We're optimizing for speed. We're optimizing for them to be able to run different business problems down without being hamstrung by the rest of the organization. In terms of prioritization techniques, we don't prescribe specific prioritization techniques to specific squads. We've seen a couple successful ones. The RICE technique, I think, is quite interesting, right? Reach, impact, confidence, effort. is one that we use, that I've seen people use. There are many other things that we've seen. Opportunity OSTs, opportunity solution trees, impact mapping. I've seen quite a few of these different things being used, all with some level of success. All right, should we take one last question?
Yeah, let's
do that.
Let's see. Maybe this one here. Between tech, design, customers, and our business, how do you stay focused more without losing perspective?
Right.
Okay, so it's a good one because what we introduced here is adding another layer on PM's repertoire. And I think the roles and responsibilities of a squad are changing as well. Like I really don't think that the solution to this is that PM needs to answer everything. I think the PM needs to be the synthesizer of all of these different pieces and brings them together. But I think that it means that there's more of a burden on the data person on the team, the designer on the team, the commercial person on the team, the engineering manager on the team, to even take on some of the responsibilities of running the day-to-day sort of the rituals of the team, so that the PM can really focus on the strategic pieces of product. That's how I think a PM can stay sane and really focus on validating the riskiest assumptions, as opposed to just getting very dragged down by perhaps the day-to-day operations of the team.
Right.
Great.
Okay.
Cool.
Well, there are so many questions in here that it would be great to answer, but unfortunately, we have a time frame.
Maybe we'll have to organize another session just to answer the rest of the questions. Huh?
Thank you guys so much for having me here, and for those who are tuning in. It's really great to be able to see all of you from different parts of the world come in and to talk about product. Like I said very early on in the call, I think product is a very fast evolving discipline. I think it's still very early days, and I'm excited to sort of grow alongside you guys. I don't at all think that I have even 10% of the answers. I think we'll get there with time. And if I may, a little plug at the end. Mihai, would you mind sharing my screen again? Talabat is hiring and growing, and whether you're a PM or designer or engineer, if you are at all looking for a role, we'd love to hear from you. Talabat is, like I said, we're 250 people strong in product design and engineering, and we have set up a little email box, product.hiring@talabat.com, where we'd love to hear from you and see if there's a good fit potentially for our Egypt team or Dubai team as we grow in our product journey here.
Big question: is it remote or on the site?
Yeah, I mean, we have some people working remote right now. We have every intention to move people to our tech hubs, but we understand as well that through all of the situation with COVID right now, that people are we have people still working in London, people working in Singapore, but eventually the intent is to bring everyone back to our tech hub.
Sure.
Got it.
Cool.
All right. Thank you so much, Yi-Wei, and thank you everyone for attending our first iteration of this regional product tank.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining. It was a lovely session. You can still watch the video. You're gonna have we're gonna save it on the same link, and yeah, feel free to reach us out for any questions or clarifications. Have a good evening, everyone.
Definitely. See ya. Take care.
Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye.